Hello friends, welcome to a new Happy Learning video. Today we're going to learn about the first and most important of human civilizations. Today we're going to learn about Mesopotamia. The word Mesopotamia means between two rivers in Greek. So this civilization was named because it's situated between two rivers, Tigris and Euphrates. Within these fertile lands, the first ever city-states were born 4,000 years before Christ. The most important cities were Ur, Uruk, and Lagash. These city-states were independent from each other. They were surrounded by a great wall to protect themselves. The ziggurat, a temple where priests lived, was built in the center of the city. Here, they controlled trade, agriculture, and taxes. The supreme priest had the city's political and religious power. Agricultural fields spread across these cities, which were traversed by irrigation channels that used the river's water to water cultivations and animals would drink. Most of the city's citizens were farmers and shepherds, but there were also artisans that sold their own products at markets. Because of their well-being, both cities began to grow, but so did the conflicts between them due to the control of land. These battles arose military leaders that little by little turned into monarchs, into kings. Between the years 3000 and 1000 BC, Mesopotamian lands were conquered by various towns or cities. The first one was the Akkadian Empire, then the Babylonian Empire, followed by the Assyrian Empire, and finally the Persian Empire. So, we've got to know part of Mesopotamia's history, but do you know why it has been such an important civilization for humanity? Well, there are many reasons, but the first one is because Mesopotamia was where around 3500 BC the first written language was found. At first, it was composed by simple drawings called pictograms. Look at these examples. Over time, these drawings were simplified and started to transform into symbols, which is what we know today as cuneiform writing. As you can see, this writing was made with a wooden punch over clay boards. Another great contribution Mesopotamia made was its art. They created the ark and vault that helped them construct magnificent temples and palaces. To decorate the walls and doors within these temples and palaces, they used paintings like this one, where the king Ashurbanipal is hunting lions. By the way, before we say goodbye, do you know what country Mesopotamia is today? Well, it's Iraq. You can see it here. Goodbye, friends, and don't forget to subscribe to Happy Learning TV.
Search us and subscribe to Happy Learning's YouTube channel.
Hello friends, and welcome to a new Happy Learning video. Take a look at this lifeline. As you can see, history is divided into 5 main stages. Today, we're going to learn all about the Ancient Age. The Ancient Age begins in 400 before Christ, when writing was created, and ends with the fall of the Western Roman Empire in 476 after Christ. During this period, the first civilizations emerged and developed. Mesopotamia being the first city-state, Egypt with its pharaohs and pyramids, Greece with its wise philosophers and the Olympics, and Rome with its strong gladiators and great empire. The main characteristics of the ancient age are the following. In ancient ages, urban life began to develop, causing cities to grow, and the number of inhabitants they had increased. In these cities, political power was in the hands of kings, emperors, and pharaohs. These positions were those with the highest authority. The population was divided into free men and slaves. The free men enjoyed many rights and owned the land and also the slaves. The slaves were usually prisoners of war or the children of slaves. They had no rights and always were made to do the hardest tasks. During the ancient age, wars were continuous, so the military were drilled on values, routine, and discipline, as well as perfecting their physical strength and aim. Trade between cities became more and more important and allowed for a great culture exchange between them. This was also when the first architectural wonders, such as the Egyptian pyramids, the theaters, and the Colosseums in Rome, where the fearsome gladiators fought, and the Greek religious and cultural centers, the Acropolis, and the Parthenon were built. The truth is that it is impressive to see what the men in the ancient ages have accomplished. At Happy Learning, we believe it is very important to know the past, to understand the present, and to improve the future. Above all, it is very important to know the mistakes of the past and learn from them so as not to make them again. Goodbye, friends! Until the next video!
Search us and subscribe to Happy Learning's YouTube channel.
Hello friends! Welcome to a new Happy Learning video. Today we're going to learn about the Roman Empire. Legend has it that Rome was founded by Romulus and Remus, two brothers who had been raised by a wolf. But that's just a legend. Rome was founded almost 2,800 years ago with the union of several villages in Italy. At first, it was a monarchy. Those who commanded were the kings, but later it became a republic. Do you know what that is? A republic is a form of government where there are no kings, but politicians make the decisions they think are convenient. The Republic of Rome lasted several centuries until about 2,000 years ago, when what we know as the Roman Empire began. In an empire, all power is in the hands of an emperor, who is like the king of kings. The Romans conquered all the nations of the Mediterranean: Greece, Egypt, Syria, France, Germany, and also the Iberian and Celtic people of Hispania. They even arrived in Britannia, now known as England. But how did the Romans live? Roman society was divided into several groups. The patricians were the nobles. They had a lot of power. They were politicians and military men, rich and powerful. Below them were the plebeians, the people. They were farmers, artisans, and workers in general. And finally, in the lowest part were the slaves, who used to be the prisoners of war. War was a very important activity for the Romans. Their armies were huge and formed by fearsome soldiers called legionaries. Thanks to them, they conquered all corners of the Mediterranean. The Romans were also great engineers and architects. and created very orderly cities with many amenities. They had aqueducts to carry water from one place to another, bridges to cross rivers, circuses, theatres, spas, and schools. Roman children went to school, like us. They also built roads, and this made it a lot easier to get from one side of the empire to the other. The Roman Empire ended in the 5th century when the Germans invaded Rome. It was at that very moment, with the fall of the empire, when the Middle Ages began. But that's another story. As we always tell you, it is very important to know the past, to understand the present and improve the future, don't you think? Goodbye, friends!
Search us and subscribe to Happy Learning's YouTube channel.
Hello friends, welcome to new Happy Learning video. As you can see in the images, today we're going to talk about pyramids, mummies and pharaohs. Today we're going to travel to ancient Egypt. Egypt is a country that still exists today, situated in northeastern Africa. But what we call ancient Egypt is a civilization that started more than 5,000 years ago and lasted for approximately 3,000 years. Its origins commences with Pharaoh Name, also known as a Scorpion King, who in 3200 BC funded this country at the Nile's bank. The River Nile is the largest river in Africa and was the most important existing thing for Egyptians since they depended on its water to survive. Their whole civilization and cities rose from the river's bank. The Nile was so important because Egypt is a country surrounded by desert and the cultivations could only take place at its shores. But it wasn't only used for agriculture. The river was also used to fish and hunt. They also used it as a great road to transport goods or large stone blocks used for their constructions. All of this was why the Nile was considered to be a god. Actually, ancient Egyptians had hundreds of gods. Some had a human's body and an animal's head, like goddess Bastet, who had a lion's head, or god Anubis and his jackal head. But the most important of all was Ra, god of sun, who had a falcon's head. The pharaohs were ancient Egypt's kings. There were many pharaohs over 3,000 years, but the most famous one was Tutankhamun. Ancient Egyptians believed in life after death, and therefore they were buried with their belongings, furniture, vases, clothes, and even food. They believed that this way these things could be used in the next life. As pharaohs had the greatest power, they wanted to have the best tombs, and they got them. These tremendous pyramids were built for pharaohs' tombs. Inside them, there are many tunnels, chambers, and secret passageways. When they died, pharaohs and some noblemen's bodies were mummified to preserve their bodies after death. These are the famous mummies. Mummies were placed in a sarcophagus, luxurious coffins that were covered in beautiful drawings and hieroglyphics. Hieroglyphics were the mysterious Egyptian writings. Their meaning was a mystery for thousands of years, but thanks to archaeologists, we can translate them and partly understand what they want to say. The truth is, everything in ancient Egypt's circle fascinates me. You already know that discovering the past makes us understand the present and improve the future. Goodbye, friends, and don't forget to subscribe to Happy Learning TV.
Search us and subscribe to Happy Learning's YouTube channel.
Hello friends! Welcome to a new Happy Learning video. Today, we're going to learn about one of the most important periods of antiquity. Today, we're going to travel to ancient Greece. Ancient Greece begins in the year 1200 BC and ends in the year 146 BC. It was founded in southeastern Europe near the Mediterranean Sea and the Aegean Sea. In this area, which included a large peninsula and many small islands, the Greek civilization was born and developed. This civilization was made up of a lot of cities called polis. The most powerful were Sparta and Athens. Each polis governed itself and was independent of the rest, although many times war was declared on each other, and sometimes they even allied with one other polis to go against the third. In ancient Greece, women, slaves, and foreigners were not considered free citizens. Only the men born in the polis were free citizens, and only they could debate about laws, norms, and everything that was important for the city. They did it in the agora, a plaza in the polis. Decisions were made by voting, and that is why it is said that the ancient Greeks were the inventors of democracy, the system of government that we currently have in most countries. The Greeks thought a lot and wondered many things about their surroundings. In fact, the Greeks are famous for developing philosophy, the art of thinking. The most important philosophers in history, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, were Greeks. Because of their political system and philosophers, it is said that the Greeks created the first intellectual civilization. For them, intelligence and knowledge were very important, and that is why they dominated the Mediterranean for centuries. They loved theatre and sports competitions. Do you know that they created the Olympics? Yes, very similar to the Olympics we have now. Surely you've seen them on TV, right? The ancient Greeks were polytheists. They believed in many gods. Greek mythology is full of mysterious stories and legends. The most powerful god was Zeus, lord of lightning, and next to him there were many others like Poseidon, the god of the seas. In Greek mythology, there were also heroes like Hercules and Achilles, and strange beings like minotaurs and mermaids. As you have learned, in ancient Greece, important things were created that we continue to use today, such as democracy, politics, philosophy, theatre, and the Olympics. As we always say, it is fundamental to know the past in order to understand the present and improve the future. Goodbye, friends! And do not forget to subscribe to Happy Learning TV.
Search us and subscribe to Happy Learning's YouTube channel.